Hi, I'm Katie Uhlmann reporting for Katie Chats at hotDOCS in downtown Toronto. I'm here with filmmaker Nicolas Steiner. How does it feel to have your film above and below here at hotDOCS?
Well, it's amazing because I've never been here to Toronto. I've never been to hotDOCS, and it's our North American premiere. So I was really excited because I shot it in the U.S., so people are speaking English. So it's the first time that actually English native-speaking people are watching it. So I was really excited and pumped to come here and show the film. Yeah.
Right. And this film is getting so much hype. It's a Variety just wrote a really great article about it, and you're on Katie Chats, obviously. And but it's your grad film from school, so which is awesome. Congratulations! But tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind the film and how you started investigating people who are living in all these nooks and crannies and tunnels and where we'd least expect them to be.
Well, the whole idea kind of started when I was in San Francisco at the San Francisco Art Institute. I did a year there as a Fulbright scholarship, and I was doing a photo series, analog photo series about ghost towns, and that's kind of where everything started because I really liked the atmosphere there because you could still smell that people were there, and it's something that human beings made, even though it was weird because it's in the middle of the desert and nobody really wants to go in the middle of the desert to buy or to build a house or a city, but we do all the time. And so that's kind of where the whole thing started. And I was really interested in the desert as well because the desert has something so like raw, dry, archaic, and I like those kind of elements. And maybe also because I did my last two films in my hometown in Switzerland, which is like mountains, green. I kind of like this contrast a little bit too. And because filmmaking is always also an adventurous thing for me, and so this was kind of the surroundings that I found very fast. And then I was looking, of course, for people who live in those crazy circumstances and surroundings. And through my research, I found I'm always more inspired by photographs than like news articles or TV shows. So I found these crazy photographs about those people from the Mars Society who live there and simulate life on Mars. And that's kind of how it all got started, yeah.
Wow. So this couple who lives in in the tunnels in the flood channels in Vegas. How did you even meet them and figure out that they were living under there?
Well, the first time I was in Vegas was a couple years ago, and I was just like, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do because I don't know if every filmmaker or every other person feels that, but your senses are like overwhelmed with your eyes, the smell of the city, like it's crazy. It was like I felt a little bit like America on steroids in a way. It's too much. You can't handle it. And then I wasn't really interested in the whole strip things, but I was walking around, and then I suddenly saw this one guy in a one-piece PJ with a chessboard walking into one of these tunnels, and I was like, did I just see somebody there? Is that a ghost or what is that? So I really fast got interested in like, oh wait a second. I mean, he can't just go there and play hide and seek. This has a deeper issue here and the deeper meaning here. So I got into the research. I found a journalist who made a little book and wrote a little book about the people, kind of like Dark Days. People in Brooklyn and in New York who lived in the subway tunnels. They lived there in the flood channels, and that's how I got started. And I met with him. He told me a couple things, and then I got like kind of illegal prints of flood channels, the flood channel system, and I just took my backpack and my flashlight and kind of went in
Wow.
and dived in.
Were you ever scared just wandering through there?
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you that I wouldn't do everything anymore now 3 years after because at that time I was like the grad student and a little bit naive maybe in a positive way too, but very adventurous and adrenaline, like everything, all these elements kind of kicked me too. But it's not really good to go there by yourself because well, a couple things, it's that you're trespassing constantly, and I also got arrested during the shoot and later. But so you're trespassing constantly. It's dangerous because of various reasons. The water can come anytime, and it's really dangerous because even if it's just 1 foot of water, it can just float you away because it's so fast. And sometimes it happens not even when it's raining. Sometimes it happens when the spa resorts kind of clean their pools, and so you can't pretend it. So the water is dangerous, and they have a couple animals that are not really friendly, like scorpions and spiders, and some of those spider bites are quite intense. And of course, you might get across some people, and most of the people are really friendly, but most of those friendly people are sometimes on crystal meth, which can make them really unfriendly. Even though deep down there are friendly people, but they're there for a reason in a way. And there are other people that really don't want to be found because they go back into those tunnels to kind of escape from society. And I didn't want to bother them because they they chose that direction for a reason, you know. But those that I found, like Rick and Cindy, especially the couple, they were really, really nice people. And I can also tell you now that they're clean and they're in Texas now. We kind of helped them, and it was the biggest present for me 1 year after the shoot to visit them, and that they told me that shooting helped them to get their self-esteem back, you know, because they were kind of seen as human beings again, and that just made my day. I mean, film festivals are great, and I'm really happy to be here, but to get a statement like that from your own crew is way more important than any of the awards or festivals or whatever. Yeah, but it was a huge deal, and I think not only the film is done yet and it's out there and the audience can watch it, I think the audience who will watch the film, they also see that the crew was really close together, and that kind of life experience that we went through and that we were like becoming more mature, you kind of see that in the film too, I feel like.
And the cinematography in the film is beautiful. So tell me a little bit about, how you captured these images. You were saying you have a bit of a photography background, but how you approached it, and with the ping pong balls coming through the flood channels, like it was magical.
Well, thank you very much. Well, yeah, cinematography was always one of my main interests, and I also have to say that I was a little bit tired of just watching documentaries that were just. I mean, I do understand it depends always on the content. You know, I would not shoot every documentary like how I shot this one. But for this framework and for this content that I wanted to tell, this was the perfect method with the cameraman that I'm working with since 2 or 3 films, which is my friend, an Austrian guy, and we also shared flat once, so we know each other really well. And I always feel he's like such a talented guy. He's like amazing. He's physically very there because it was like really hard because the circumstance. Sometimes you're in small tunnels and you still have like 24 to 25 kilos on your shoulder, so you have to be quite there. So he's physically there, but he has a very good intuition, and he knows me what I like, and then I pretty much have to give him more like the borders and the framework and the playground, and all the rest he kind of offers me a lot. So the reason, maybe I could just say one thing why we chose, for example, to shoot it on that camera, because that camera 4 years ago, now it's a little bit more popular, but 4 years ago it was really mostly just used for fiction or commercials.
And what camera did you shoot on?
It's an Arri Alexa.
Okay.
And at that time, it was not really common to use it for documentaries because it's so heavy, and you have, it's with prime lenses, so you have to change the lenses, so it's not really comfortable if you want to be fast and nobody should see you.
Yeah.
But it really was our aim to kind of create this like cinematography experience, for the cinema, and so you can't just shoot that with a 5D and walk around and run around. It's not the same. So that was one approach, and the other approach was because it was really dark in the tunnels.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have a choice at that point. We knew that we're gonna shoot a lot of scenes just with candlelight. So there's only 35 millimeter, which was too expensive, or a couple of options in digital, and Arri Alexa was one of them. And my school had a camera, so we convinced our school to rent that out for 2.5 months, which is quite a long time. But so that's how it got all started, and I mean, and yet, because my cameraman is like really, really focused, and he told me like, hey, look, but if we shoot on Arri Alexa for our style of the film, we maybe shouldn't use like the newest lenses. So we use like 40-year-old lenses from Zeiss, which are a little bit more. They're not as sharp as the new digital stuff. So just to make it look like a little less digital and modern, go back to the also kind of show the beautiness in the destruction, but kind of support that vision. So there's a lot about the camera that we could talk about.
Totally. And in the film, you portrayed all of your subjects, the couple in the tunnel, and the man who's living in the desert, in a very non-judgmental light. And I think a lot of people might portray a crystal meth addict in a certain way, but you did it in a way that was very neutral and just showing them as people and who they are. So how did you create that atmosphere for the interviews that you were really just being totally unbiased and in making this film?
Well, there's a lot of things that I want to add to this. First of all, I always like to call them more like heroes instead of subjects in a way.
I like that.
And then also, I always feel like there's a couple keywords that I use when I do my documentaries, or this one specifically. One was patience. The other one is like a lot of respect that I brought with me for them and with them, but they also brought it back to me. So what I kind of gave to them, they also give me back in a way. That's kind of it sounds really simple and it's not really a rule, but it is like that. And so I don't know. I mean, for me it was really important to not. Yes, the film does treat the topic or the layer homelessness a little bit in all kind of different ways. I mean, in a way, April, who wants to go on Mars, she's in a way homeless too. She's looking for a different home. But of course, that's a way different homelessness than we're talking than people who are in tunnels in the flood channels. But it wasn't so. I wasn't too interested in like doing a social hardcore documentary about homelessness in the States or in Las Vegas. So that was just one of the layers that should come with me. But I didn't want to have any prejudice. Like when people watch it and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, now we've seen the crystal meth addict couple who's in the tunnels and they're homeless and blah, blah. So that's why in the editing, you only see them like once, I think, smoking crystal meth at the very end, where it gets really dramatic because the rain hits in. And all before that was the amazing thing. They're just like you and me, and that's the great thing. And when she's painting her nails and telling me that she has different colors because that's how, depending on her mood and stuff like that, it's breathtaking. It's so warm and it's like so. We almost had to be careful that we don't show it too romantical and too like nice in the tunnels, because the tunnels are still rough. But with the candlelight all the times and with them being there, the way they treated us, the way we treated them, it almost got into like a, oh, should we stay here maybe longer? Should we get comfortable? Because that's also an interesting thing about our film. What we figured out too is like at the beginning you're like, whoa, flood channels, oh, I could never live there. Then you go down there, you do the research, you start to eat there, you start to maybe sleep there, and at the end of the day, a human being attaches so fast to its surroundings, because it's like three walls and a ceiling at some point. And so we had to be careful that it's not going to get too comfortable, or at
Like,
least
we gotta get out of here.
yeah, no, that the audience at the end is going to say, well, that's not even, I mean, okay, yeah, that's fine, but it looks like it's like a nice place down there. We have to be careful that, it doesn't lose the danger and also the not the disgustingness, but you know what I mean. Like we had to be careful to not lose that.
And also this idea that their home washes away every time it rains and they have to rebuild it. Like, I don't know, can you just comment on that? Because it's such a crazy concept that every time the rain comes, which you have no control over, you've got to like rebuild your house.
Yeah, it's intense. It's like I don't wish that to anyone. It's really, really intense because I mean in Vegas it does rain like 4 or 5 times a year, like heavier, where they almost get floods. And so that's like really dangerous at that time. But for that, it's kind of they have the weather report, so they can pack like a couple days before and try to save everything. But how I said, sometimes it's just the golf course that you know the water is like I don't know how you call that, but the water gets away, and then and you can't see that in the weather report, and that's sometimes enough to kind of float everything. So it's really an intense psychological pressure that you have all the time of like you just never know when your shit is gonna go down. And that's just not good for your head. And I think that kind of adds to the whole. That's why they take drugs at some point, because they have to. They also, if they lose their home, they have to stay awake till it dries. So to stay awake for 72 hours or something, nobody can do that normally. So you have to kind of have some drugs to do that. It's crazy, but it is like that. And yeah, I mean that was like one of the most emotional and dramatic scenes where I didn't even shoot it anymore. I was just like working, helping with them, like putting stuff out, and it's crazy because then you bunker it up there, but then you always have to be on alert that somebody's gonna come and steal it. So it's a really like a situation that you don't really want to be in.
And where's the best place for us to find out more information on you and the film online?
Well, we do have some. I have to admit, I'm not that good in social media, my personally, but my film crew does like an amazing job. So we do have a Facebook page called Above and Below Film. You can find us on Facebook. There's also a homepage, but Facebook is a better place to kind of be updated. Where is the film going to be screened? What's going to happen next? Actually, also the protagonists are on there and commenting sometimes some stuff, and a lot of stuff happened to them. You know how I said the couple is in Texas. Dave is back in the desert, but he was in Hawaii for a little bit because he sold everything, but he's back there now.
Okay.
Lalo, I don't have the greatest news, but he's still in Vegas, but he's in prison right now. So, but we kind of try to keep it a little bit up to date where it's going to be screened and also how the people are and stuff like that because yeah, we figure out that there's a lot of. I was in Buenos Aires last week, so Spanish speaking people, and we find kind of our niche and people who are really interested in what's happening next. So,
Well, thank you so much and congratulations.
well, thank you for the interview. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Katie Uhlmann reporting for Katie Chats at hotDOCS in Toronto.